Sometimes you have to make tough decisions about your garden. In my case, should I try to save some corn that I was growing, or should I go after the ants? And since it's the middle of August now, and I'm going to be planting my fall garden in just a very few weeks, I'm going to go after the ants. This is what's left of my basil. It really didn't like Hurricane Debbie coming through. And I knew the ants would seek a higher level so that they wouldn't get all flooded out too. And here's where they went. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I get rid of ants in my organic garden. And what's the big deal about ants anyway?
All I have needs, I have not provided.
There's 3 different kinds of ants that I deal with here in Central Florida. I don't know about where you live, but I think sugar ants are pretty common all around the world. Sugar ants in the garden are a bad thing because what they do is they plant aphids and they farm them. They really don't care about your vegetables or your plants. They care about the sugar that they can get from the aphids. And then the aphids are what's actually doing the damage to your crops. For me, sugar ants are the easiest to get rid of. Just mix an equal part of powdered sugar and borax. Sprinkle that around where you think their nest is. I've sprinkled it before, and within 1 minute, I see ants coming for it and taking it back to their nest. The next day, the ants are all gone. The next kind of ant that's the biggest challenge for me is these teeny tiny little red ants. And you'd think they're so tiny, they're harmless. Well, man, they can sting. They pack a powerful punch. I don't know that they do a whole lot of damage to the garden, but I sure don't like it when they sting me. I think that they will respond to the mixture of borax and sugar as well. Right before Hurricane Debbie came through, I was taking care of a nest that was real close to the porch. I thought I had eradicated them. But I also knew if there were any left, they were going to search for higher ground. And in this case, my flower pot. And apparently there was enough of them left where they pretty well populated my flower pot. Now, basil doesn't do good here through the summer, and this is all that's left of the basil. So I don't really mind losing the basil, but I don't want to mess up this dirt that's in here because I've been enriching it and I don't want to mess up the microbes. So what I've done is discourage them. Last night I poured probably about 3 gallons into this pot, and it wasn't enough to make a move. So I'm going to still pour gallons and gallons of water right into their nest. And I'm not going to disturb them right now because they'll swarm and I really don't want to be stung. So that's how I get rid of them when they're in a pot. Just keep pouring water on them. They don't like to be sitting in muck. So they are going to search for a drier place eventually. So what I'm doing as well is the rest of my pots down here, whether they've got plants in them or not, I'm keeping them really soaked too. They'll eventually move. So I really don't want to flood my garden again, but I have a tried and true method that will get rid of fire ants, completely destroy their nest, and it's free. Now the trick is, find that nest. So put a large pot of water on to boil and bring it out to your garden. So I put the first dose of boiling water on them last night. Their nest was down in here, and I got to show you this. I think this is actually pretty cool. And they are still active, but look, see all that? They bring their dead ants up to the surface. So it makes it a little bit easy to find what's left of them. But I just think that's fascinating, actually. Now the bulk of them move down right here. I don't want to disturb them a lot, but see that? That's their eggs or their nymphs, and they take care of them. I don't know the lifespan of ants, but they sure are really good at protecting their babies. Look at this. They're already swarming. So what I'm going to do is pour water, all this hot water, right over the top, and even through the mulch, since they're indicating to me that they're still here. And then I'll come back and I'm going to rake back all of this mulch, and they kind of tell on themselves. They'll make another nest nearby, and you got to get them again. I've seen it take as many as 4 or 5 times, just depending on how extensive they are. Now, when it rains a lot like this, they have a tendency to spread out instead of all being in one great big, I call them ant piles. It's an ant nest, ant home. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this first batch of water right over the top of them. But the main reason I'm growing this is because I'm going to turn it under by hand to enhance the soil, enrich the soil. They do add nitrogen, but they'll also add some carbon back into the soil as well. They got pretty soggy. I don't know if they're going to continue to live or not. I have doused them with sulfur. Sulfur is kind of my all-purpose cure for rust, for spots, for if their leaves are getting yellow. I have a real problem with my soil being too alkaline, and that really helps. Fire ants are vicious. If you're new to the southeastern part of the United States, you really need to know this. Fire ants will swarm you and you don't even know it. And then the captain says, now, and then you have all of them biting you at the same time. And it takes so long to brush them all off and pick them all off. And then you'll have feet that have about 20, 30, 40, 50 bites on them. Speaking of which, you see I've disturbed their nest, and they're going to be sure that they bite whatever the enemy is. If a child gets bitten a lot, they can run a really high fever from it. And believe me, when a child experiences, it can be pretty traumatic. You know, they'll swarm and then they bite, and then you're trying to brush all that off of them. It's terrible. So educate your child what to look for so that they're not going to get anywhere near an ant bed. I'll show you a picture of what a typical ant bed looks like if I can find one. Because after it rains, they have a tendency, like I showed you already, they have a tendency to spread out. But a lot of times it's just a big mound of dirt, and you really have to look out for them. The other reason I hate red ants is they are so destructive. They farm the aphids, but not only do they farm the aphids, but they'll actually eat the vegetable that's on the plant. They'll even go underground. They'll eat root crops, such as carrots and sweet potatoes. And they'll dig tunnels right through them. So they are very, very destructive. And they're very persistent. Sometimes I can get rid of an ant bed with just 2 times of pouring a big pot of boiling water over them. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 times. There was a big bed in another part of the garden that I'm going to show you in just a minute. And I thought I'd gotten rid of them all. And then I couldn't follow up because Hurricane Debbie came through. And then I couldn't get out here to the garden for a few days because I would have sunk. So what did they do? They sought higher ground. So what was left of that bed, they sought higher ground, and now they've multiplied. And I didn't know they were there because now they're hiding themselves really, really good. And the way I found them, my feet. They swarmed my feet. I didn't know it, and the captain said now. So let's go over to the corn. I'm going to show you what's going on and a reason why I've decided to pull all that corn up. I don't know where the bed is here, so I am going to go ahead and pull up this corn and try to determine where the bed is, and I'll give them time to reconstruct their bed so I can easily find them. I found a lot of those little black ants, and it looks like there's some the little tiny red ants, piss ants, in here as well. There's also some fire ants. Now they all seem to get along together. Great. That is one humdinger. So off to the kitchen I go for round one. I suspect that this one's going to take a few big pots of boiling water. Look at them. Look at them all. And they're already swarming my feet down here. Ah! Be sure you hit the like button. It really helps the algorithm to recognize my channel. And subscribe, hit the bell notification. I'm going to be talking about the 4 methods that I'm doing right now to increase my sweet potato harvest. I don't know which one of those 4 methods is going to work, but I'd love to share with you what I'm doing. I did change some things up this year. I planted them differently. I started them differently. Another video that's coming out real soon is how to grow pineapple. Here in Central Florida, it's really easy, and I'm enjoying fresh, sun-ripened pineapple right now, and it's really helped me with, I've been sick, so those fresh vitamins are really helping me. Another video that's coming up soon, I've been monetized for 3 months now, and I want to share with you what this small channel has made and some thoughts about what the future of this channel is going to be. You're welcome to leave comments on subjects you'd like me to cover in the future. I really am pondering a lot about the direction I need to take with this channel. I really enjoy teaching people how to garden. Thanks for watching.
Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me.